Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to reflect on how my year of running went in 2023 and also look ahead to my running plans, goals, things to expect on the channel for 2024. A quick recap then of 2023 firstly, we'll jump straight into it. I firstly was aiming to do my first 100-mile ultramarathon, and I managed to do that back in June. That was the South Downs Way 100, and that is run by Centurion Running, 100 miles along the South Downs Way, going from Winchester to Eastbourne. And yeah, it went really well. It was an amazing experience. I had great crew, great support, great pacers, and just enjoyed a lot of the experience. There were of course some tough miles in it, particularly in the middle section when we reached the heat of the day. It was a pretty hot day that we had for it, up to 30 degrees. But yeah, overall couldn't be happier with how it went, and managed to come out with that sub 24-hour buckle as well. So yeah, really pleased with it. So that was goal number one. In the lead up to that, I also had a couple of races as kind of prep. My first race was meant to be a trail marathon back in March, which I didn't end up doing because I had a chest infection at that point. So yeah, actually a DNS, or did not start for my first race of the year. The second race, which was a lead up to the South Downs Way 100, was the South Downs Way 50. Really good 50 miler, and I think potentially one of my favourite races that I've done. So that was the first big goal, run 100 miles. The second goal I had was to explore a trail called the Greenwich Meridian Trail, and I wanted to run a particular section of this. So Greenwich Meridian Trail, if you haven't heard of it before, it's a trail that runs all the way from Yorkshire down to Peacehaven. So it's roughly 300 miles or so, I think, but I wanted to run the section of it between London and Brighton. So in the later part of 2023, I decided to do a solo run, which ended up being 75 miles in the end, and that was going from Greenwich, where I was born, to Brighton, and which is where I currently live, and I was using the Greenwich Meridian Trail. So really amazing exploration run, and I wanted there really to see what it would be like to run a long distance without support and without the feeling of an event. And yeah, it's safe to say it was tricky. You know, when you haven't got the buzz of the race, when you're using pubs, restaurants, cafes, raid stations, it does psychologically make it harder. But it was a great challenge, and I really enjoyed running on some new trails. So yeah, that one ticked off as target number 2. Number 3, this was a target which I didn't meet at all. So I had on my goals for 2023 to run a half marathon PB. I didn't do that in the end because towards the later part of 2023, I decided that yes, I wanted to do some road running, but actually I didn't want to have a huge amount of volume in there. I wanted to cut back on volume. I felt my body needed a rest from doing big mileage weeks, or at least big mileage weeks for me. And I thought, okay, I'm actually just going to focus on doing high intensity but low mileage. And that meant that I did a small training block to get a 5k PB, which went well, came out with a time which was faster than the ones I've run previously. So I got a PB at my local park run, and then off the back of that, for about 4 or 5 weeks, I did a 10k training block and went for a 10k PB at the Brighton 10k. So yeah, that goal, running a half marathon PB, completely went out the window, but I decided to do some other road running to mix it up. And yeah, it felt good in 2023 to have that variety, to have done the 100-mile race, to have done the 75-mile solo run, to have done the South Downs Way 50, but then also to have done some speedier stuff with the 5k and the 10k PB. And I think that's what I'm enjoying at the moment with running. So yes, predominantly doing trails, predominantly going out there exploring, doing ultra distances, but also having a little bit of speed in there as well, and doing some shorter road challenges too. So yeah, overall I'd say very happy with the year. December I had a kind of down month. I was feeling a bit ill. I typically find it trickier to train during winter months as well. I think I'm quite affected by the seasons, probably something like seasonal affective disorder, although it hasn't been diagnosed. So yeah, actually getting motivated in the light can be without the light rather, can be quite tricky with the short days. But probably not a bad thing. I had a couple of niggles around December, and it allowed me to cut back, probably enjoy Christmas a little bit more. So yeah, quite a chilled, low-key end to the year. But as I said, overall, really happy with how the year went. So that was 2023, and then of course got to look ahead now to 2024 and think about my goals, races that I'm going to be doing. So the first one on the list is I would like to take part in a backyard ultra, and the good news is that that's now only a few weeks away. So I'm going to be doing my first backyard ultra at the end of January for the Longbridge 100 backyard, which is one we've got here in Sussex. It's the inaugural year of it as well, so it's the first year they're running this backyard. There's a winter and a summer edition. I've decided to go for the winter edition. So that's now in a few weeks. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it in terms of distance. I haven't been doing massive mileage recently, but we'll play it by ear, see how it goes, and mostly I'd just like to see what it feels like to be in a backyard ultra, to be in that race format. If you haven't heard of backyard ultra before, it's basically where you do 4 point something miles. I can't remember the exact number of it, I'll put it on the screen, but 4 point something miles each hour on the hour. You set off from the same start point and you come back to that point at the end of your loop, and you just keep going as long as you can. So there's essentially everyone DNFs apart from one person who does the most laps at the end, and they've been known to go on for days. There was the recent record set for the longest distance at a backyard ultra. I'll put up the details of that on the screen, but yeah, they can go on for a very, very long time. So the one I'm doing starts at 6 p.m. on a Friday evening, goes into the weekend, and yeah, it finishes when no one is able to run anymore. And so that is essentially the backyard format. So I'm intrigued to see what that feels like. I've not done an event like this before. The most similar event I've done is a 6 hour do as many loops as you can event, but this of course has no end to it. It can just go on forever. So my second goal for 2024 is going to be to run my first mountain race, and the one I've chosen is the UTS 100k. So that's the Ultra Trail Snowdonia, run by UTMB over in Wales around the mountains of Snowdonia National Park. And yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. I haven't done any mountain running before. It's got 7,000 meters of climbing, so about 21,000 feet. But I'm trying to get as mountain ready as I can by the time May comes around, and one of the videos I'll be sharing on the channel quite soon will be how I'm training for a mountain race whilst also not living near to the mountains. So training for a mountain race without actually doing much mountain running. We are hoping to get out, so Carla's doing the 25k race there. We are hoping to get out in some mountains soon, but we won't necessarily be able to do that huge amount because of work. So we'll see how we get on for that in terms of our training, but we've got a couple of things in mind that we're going to do to try and get those mountain legs ready. So those I'll be sharing on the channel very, very soon. So that's the second race. The other thing that's worth mentioning there is just that, you know, I know with UTMB it's a big race organisation, and there's been lots of talk recently on social media and online about the concern that the trail running community has as a whole about the encroachment of like big monopolies taking over trail racing. So I am slightly ambivalent about like taking part in UTMB races and supporting them. I've of course decided to sign up for one in the end, but my thinking is that as much as possible in my running, I want to support small scale and independent race organisations and not do too many of the bigger races. So yes, I'm doing this one, I may do others in the future, but I'm going to try and as much as I can, like with all my other races in 2024, they're going to be supporting small scale independent race organisations. So yeah, it's trying to strike that balance, I think, for me. So that is my second goal for 2024. The third one is to do an LDWA event. So the LDWA, if you haven't heard of them before, it's the Long Distance Walkers Association. And one of the things I've been getting into towards the end of last year was looking at the history of ultra running and ultra walking in the UK. And I found that the first mass participation 100 miler was run by the LDWA, the Long Distance Walkers Association, back in 1973. So I'm keen to kind of do some races and events that have some history to them. And one of the things I'm thinking about is doing in the future, so not for this year, but in future years, a 100 miler that is put on by the LDWA. And to do that, you have to do one of their 50-mile events first. So in September, they've got a Stride event, which is a 52-miler. It's either going to be in Sussex or Surrey. This is something I need to clarify. I'm not exactly sure where it's happening yet. But I would like to do that so that in the future I'll be able to do one of their 100-mile events. So the other thing that I would also like to tick off for 2024, which is running related, it's not to do with me actually running, but that is to complete my ultra coaching qualification. So at the moment I'm studying for the UESCA ultra coaching course qualification, and that basically is a course which covers all the different elements of ultra running, so nutrition, pacing, putting together training plans, looking at physiology. So I'd like to complete that, and this is probably part of the reason why I'm doing fewer videos at the moment. It's because I'm wanting to gear my attention a little bit more towards like learning more things about ultra running, its history, and also supporting people in achieving their ultra running goals. So that I'm hoping to tick off by the end of this year. It's an online qualification. In fact, I'll post a link to it below if anyone's interested in seeing what the qualification involves. But yeah, I would definitely like to tick that off for 2024. So my final goal for 2024 is to reach 100 park runs. I'm loving parkrun at the moment, really enjoying it. I love the community feel around it, the fact it's very open, inclusive, that you can turn up on a Saturday morning and do a free 5K with lots of other people in a supportive atmosphere. So I'm hoping by the end of this year to have reached 100 park runs. Currently on 67, I think it's 67 or maybe 68 now with the New Year's Day park run I've done. So yeah, hopefully I'll get to 100 park runs by the end of the year, and that'll be my final goal. It may well be that my goals slightly change and shift during the year. I mean, that certainly happened with last year's running, with the scrapping of the half marathon, moving to the 5K and the 10K. But this at least gives me a bit of a focus, something I'm training towards. And yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be a good year of running in 2024, just as it was for 2023. So thanks for watching, everyone. The next thing coming up on the channel will be the Backyard Ultra. So that's coming in a couple of weeks' time. And then following that, I'm going to be talking about how I'm training for my first mountain race. As I said, that's the UTS 100K. So thanks for watching. Have a good week all. Enjoy your running, and I'll see you all in the next one.